So I should be live once it gives me the my microphone's turning. Anyway, I'm live now. I've got nobody watching me. So anyway, let's get on with it. So anyway, for all you new people out there watching the live chat, my name's Sean. I come from the Mazaron area, which is in the southeast of Spain. I had to think about that, and didn't I? Southeast of Spain, the Costa Calida. I live on a complex called Campusol, huge urbanization just outside the town of Mazaron. I'm about 10-15 minutes drive to the nearest beach. Today's weather has been not too bad, mid sort of 20s, bit cloudy, but nice and sunny still. Sort of the right heat as far as I'm concerned. And I noticed there's a lot of Brits coming over, especially in September. I've got quite a few people coming over to have a chat with me. And sort of mid-October, so great time to come and visit Spain. So look forward to seeing those sort of people. I'll take it you can hear me okay, pictures okay. So this week, as from yesterday, I did the Q&A. Now I'm going to kick straight in with it, even though I only got 3 people. But the good thing about this live chat, you can watch it later on, because I know there's quite a lot of you out there, obviously, that are working and can't obviously get involved with the chat. Now, if you have got any questions while I'm chatting, I will try and answer them. But if I don't, I'll just put this up, because I'll be doing this all week. So if you've got a question and I miss it, I ain't got time to talk about it in this half-hour slot, then just add it below in the video and I'll mention it during the week. So don't think I'm ignoring your question or whatever. It's just that sometimes I'm chatting. I can't always look at what's going on in the comments there. But at the moment, not a lot. So, Q&A. Now, yesterday, Stuart asked me a question. I answered that. And then we got on to another question. I ran out of time. So, Stuart, back to you again. So Stuart's question was, can you confirm that personal tax allowance is around 6,000 euros, reducing if you are a resident of Spain, where here he's obviously talking about the UK, it's 12,800, increasing in the UK. Well, I had a quick chat with wife. Now we reckon it's more like 9,000 euros, because we're both putting in well over 6,000 a year, probably more like 7, 8. To be quite honest, and we don't get taxed on it. Now, when we first arrived here, we was non-residents, and we was paying non-resident tax. And the way I got it was to do with your property. Be careful, guys, when you're doing your tax. Something I didn't really know about anyway, but you got to do it every year. Now, I presume the first year you probably miss it. Depends on what time of year you're going to come in, I suppose. I can't tell you, but your lawyer or your solicitor will let you know about your resident tax. Now, they will do it for you, but they will do it for a huge, horrendous price. Because when we first did our first non-resident tax, the bill come to like 500 and something, 500 euros for both of us. But when we looked at it, I think it was like 65 each, and the admin costs was like something like nearly 200. So yeah, so just be careful. There are plenty of people out there. I mean, you can even do it yourself online, but there are people out there that will do it for you a lot cheaper. But once you become residents, this is where it got confusing, because this would have been our first year of paying our resident tax, and we didn't pay nothing. we had an accountant, and we still got an accountant. He went for everything. Obviously, we've got no property back in the UK. We've got no huge amount of money in our bank or anything like that. We're just living really on our private pensions, and we paid no tax. So that was interesting, and it'd be interesting to know what is the limit of the year. You know, what you pay each year in Spain. But anyway, Stuart, it's definitely more than 6,000 euros a year, so you're all right. If you got stuff in the UK, if you got a home in the UK, and you use that as an income, there's a good chance you could get taxed on that. So just the tax side, it is a bit confusing out here. And I'll be honest, guys, I'm not the guy you really want to speak to about that. You need to speak to, one, somebody legal, and two, somebody that's knows a bit more about the tax, because yeah, it's a little bit confusing. But anyway, I'll answer that question, Stuart. Right, here's the other one. Can you live in Spain permanently without being a resident? Well, I can tell you straight away, no. I do know people that what we call off the radar, that are living here. Now, it's all fine as long as nothing goes wrong. If you get ill suddenly and you have to go to a hospital, then you're going to get cramped on. But if you want to live under the radar, the good chances are you're going to get caught, and especially with this Brexit thing, it's tuned up a wild worms. No, you can only live it in Spain for 90 days. Anything after that, you're supposed to be a resident. And when we come to Spain over 3 years ago, I asked my solicitor, and this is before the Brexit was even thought about. We asked my solicitor, is there any benefit of being a resident or non-resident? And he virtually said no. Well, I'll be quite honest, that's not true. To be a resident, you're entitled to a lot more. One of them, obviously, you're allowed to live here, and two, you need a, obviously, if you're living here, you're going to need a driving license, and it will have to be a Spanish driving license, and you can't get your Spanish driving license without being a resident. The other thing is, obviously, yeah, you got your resident tax. Now, might not be paying any money, so that's something else to consider. I'm not going to go on about being a resident, because that's even more confusing, because I think the other thing I keep trying to put across to people here in Spain, that each region, right down to each town nearly, has a different way of dealing with things. So even though you go on to the Citizens Advice Bureau of Spain, or the Expats of Spain, and whatever else, or even the government site as well, they're just sort of standard information, what has been sort of set, but that doesn't mean it complying. Because I think one of the most worrying things was mainly about how much money you got to have to survive on, and that's a huge difference in some places. But anyway, Stuart, you got to be a resident, especially if you're going to live here. If you're going to be coming over here, if you bought a holiday home, obviously you're only going to stay there for a couple of months, then no, you don't have to be a resident for that. Might be wrong on that. Stuart's here. But I might be wrong on that. But I would say definitely, if you're going to be here more than 90 days of the year, you need to be a resident. And the sooner you get it done, the better, really. Right. Is there any benefit of being a resident? As I just said, yeah. I mean, once you're a resident, you've got, especially if you've got a car, you're going to need to change it to a Spanish car, or you change the plates. If you've got a UK, a lot of people have got UK cars, and they've changed the plates, they've changed the lights on the car. I think you have to change the logbook. It doesn't cost too much, obviously, depending on the type of car you've got. Me, ideally, I bought my UK car here, and I found it difficult driving around some of the junctions, and it was just difficult. I thought, well, if I'm living here, I might as well just have a left-hand drive car. So I took my UK car back, because I couldn't sell it here very well. Most of the places that said they would buy cars just had too many of them, or they would just give a pittance for it. So I just took my UK car back, and then we come back and bought a Spanish car. But for the Spanish driving license, you have to be a resident first. Some of these solicitors are quite happy of sending you down to the doctor, because you have to have a medical first. The medical's all right. I think it costs about €40. It's quite a basic thing. It's just fill out a form. They do a quick eye test. Some places do an awareness thing where you got two twiddly things. Well, where we didn't even do that bit, but apparently most places are supposed to do an awareness test. Well, we didn't do that. We just paid the €40. We give them our driving licenses, which was a bit nerving. Because of the Brexit thing, ours took 4 months to get sorted. Now, some places did it in a couple of weeks. Now we got somebody to do ours for us. Now some of it you can actually go down to the main police station and deal with it there, but we didn't. We did it with somebody that we knew what they were doing with it. But there was a bit of a backlog because of the Brexit thing, which is still ongoing. So yeah, there is a benefit of being a resident, mainly because if you're gonna live here, you're gonna have to be a resident. So yeah. So Stuart, I answered that. I can't remember if I got any more for you, but anyway, we'll go on to the next one now, which is by Glenn Roberts. Wonder if you would like. Well, hang on. Wonder if it would be better putting money into a Spanish building society would be cheaper than being. It's right. My writing sometimes gets worse. I think what Glenn was on about, I was talking about the other day when I was doing the thing about Spanish banks, that most of the Spanish banks, you have to pay a quarterly charge. We have to pay bank charges. But some banks don't. If you leave in a certain amount a month, don't ask me that, because my bank, I have to pay them a quarterly charge. But I know there are some banks around Spain where you leave a set, probably about 2,500 in the account, and it's got to be in there all the time. You can't just dip in and out. It's got to be in there all the time, and then it's free banking. Now, I believe if you're a pensioner, I think I'm not 100% sure on this because I'm not a pensioner yet, but I believe if you have your pension paid straight into the Spanish bank, they do it free. But I can't swear on that because I'm not a pensioner yet. But that's another word. But anyway, he was mentioning about Spanish building societies. Now this will be an interesting one because as far as I know, they ain't got any Spanish building societies here in Spain. The banks do everything here. They do mortgages, insurances. They're jack of all trades. The banks are. They're not like the UK where we got lots of little, well, hundreds of little building societies. Here in Spain, I haven't seen any, but it'd be interesting to know if there are parts of Spain that have got a building society. But as far as I know, there's no building societies. So, Glenn, no. You're gonna have to put your money in the bank. And if you've got some savings, yeah, if you want it free. I mean, and of course, another thing you got to remember, guys, is whatever bank you choose, you want to make sure the bank's local, because if you use the ATM machines, you're going to get charged extra if it's not part of your bank. Admittedly, whatever machine you use is all going to get charged for it, but it all comes out of a standard fee as long as you keep to the so many transactions. And I don't know what that is, so don't ask me that. we pay a set fee. I think it's something like 27 euros a quarter, but that may differ obviously as well. As far as I'm concerned, I don't really keep a check on that. What I do keep a check on all the time is I just make sure that my account, there's nothing else being taken out, because I have read on some of the forums that people have had money taken out of their bank account unaware to them. So it's worth always checking. And I only put in enough money just to cover our monthly costs, because my folks had their account emptied out virtually, and it took them months to try and get their money back. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Spanish banks, but I think the main problem, because I don't speak much Spanish, that when it comes to trying to solve a problem, unless you've got a translator with you, which is fine, I suppose, then there is that communication problem. And that's probably one of the main reasons why I don't like keeping too much money in the Spanish bank account. No doubt there are people out there have had problems, or that they've had no problems. I mean, other than that, I think we only had one or two problems that have been resolved. And as I mentioned before, what I do like about our bank is I can go in there and it's hello, not always Mr. Matthews, but hello, Sean. Never used to get out at all where I used to go back in the UK. But anyway, it's a totally different setup here. Like I said, the guy behind the counter, he can speak nearly 4 different languages, ever so helpful. If you've got a problem, especially with these cash machines now, with the cash machines, probably no different to anywhere else around the world. You can pay your bills on there. You can even pay your speed and fine bills onto the machine. Some have got a barcode, some you just tap a number in, But if you start fluffing or whatever, they come out. They're not annoy you and whatever. No, they come out and do it. That's what I like. Maybe it's just my bank. I don't know, but I have no problems. So, Glenn, what else has he got? No, yeah, I'll finish with that, Glenn. Haley, no, I know Haley's at work now, so she won't be there. But can you give an example on how much you pay and what for? So we're talking about costs. Bit difficult because I think what it is, it all depends on your lifestyle. I mean, some people might be single, some people might be married, some people might have a family. So it will differ obviously from each. I think the main thing is if you can survive in the UK on what you got, you're going to survive here in Spain. Electricity is expensive as far as I'm concerned. Water, I'm amazed. I mean, it's probably just the same price as the UK. Now, with the water, we pay ours every 2 months. Now, that's everything included. If I can remember in my UK water, we had sewage and some other weird thing with it. But here, it's done every couple of months. And the water is about 50 or 60. But don't forget, with our water, we have to top up our pool. So like I've said before, with a swimming pool, if you got a swimming pool, it will cost you a lot extra, probably about £2,000, £2.5 a year extra, I suppose, when you add everything up with the electric, the water. But our water is about 60 every 2 months, which I thought was quite good because obviously here in Spain, they're always on a drought thing. Not as bad as the UK. I mean, UK only need a week on a drought call, but here in Spain, never had a problem with the water. I know on some of the other sectors they do get burst mains, but one good thing about the water board here, they go out and fix it. Now, sometimes some people on the other sectors might have to wait a day or two, and what they've done, they put a big water tank down underneath in the basement, so they got something to live on. But what we always do, I mean, as far as I know, I think we've only had one time where they shut the water off in the afternoon, and I've just gone across to the local shop, and they're all selling bottles of water, and the water didn't cost much here. I think it's about €1 or a litre of water, something like that. It's not much as far as I'm concerned. I think it's really reasonable. So they're the two main things that are coming out each month. Now, obviously, eating's can be another big expense. We go over to our local shop, which is probably more expensive than if we pop down to the local supermarket. We got a market here once a week. We go over there and buy the veg. Sometimes the veg, high class, is not as good as the stuff in the supermarket, and it's probably not much difference in price. How much we spend a month on that, I don't know. Probably 2, 3, maybe 400 a month. I don't know. It depends on what we're eating, really, or if we got any visitors. Yeah, we go out probably once a week, twice a week for something to eat. Eating out is another sort of thing you've got to be careful of. There are some places where you can get some fantastic meals for about €10 each, but there are other places where you can spend well over €100 just for 2 of us. So yeah, you got to look around. You've got to be careful. Look at the menu. Make sure there's no extras on it. But as far as I'm concerned, going out here is a lot cheaper for eating food. What else do we spend? Obviously, you're going to need. I mean, monthly costs. We soon get through that 1,000. Put it that way. I put in 1,000, 1,200. No, 1,000. Say 1,000 a month because the exchange rate at the moment has gone really poor. So we spend about 1,000 a month. We got other things we've got to think about as well. We got an oil for the heating. Now we top that up about 2, 3 times a year sometimes during the winter months. So what we try and do, if we've got anything left over, that'll go into next month. And what's Nick put on there? Yeah, that's right. So Nick's doing the same sort of thing. We just cover enough each. So I'm just going back to what Nick was saying. We just transfer enough each month to pay the bills. Really, we don't keep anything in there extra. We don't get much. The interest is probably no different to the interest rate back in the UK. Really, to be honest on that. What else we're talking about on costs? Insurances, obviously, you got your house insurance, you got your car insurance. We've got the IBI tax that's just coming up for next month. I think ours is about 550. That will come straight out of our account. We have a set date. I think it's the 19th of October. I'm not too sure. Some people can pay it in 2 payments. Some people said by doing the 2 payments, it's cheaper. I don't know if that's true, but ours just comes straight out. That IBI tax is your class as your council tax. Now, we don't pay a community charge here. Now, obviously, that's another thing you've got to think about, guys, especially if you go into other places, especially on some of the golf resorts. I'm not too sure about other urbanisations, although I can only imagine if you're paying a community charge, you're fenced in, because there's a place just down the road from us called the Country Club. It's also known as the Mazaron Country Club. Now, they pay a community charge. It's not really fenced in, even though it's got an electronic gate. It's not completely fenced in, but they do pay a community charge. So I'll imagine there are some urbanisations in Spain where you pay a community charge and it's quite open. Nearly all the golf resorts here are all enclosed. They've got a big, massive, it's like being inside a Berlin Wall sort of thing, where you've got cameras, which is good for security and safety, things like that, but you're paying a community charge, and they can be really expensive in some of them, depending on what type of property you got. I think anything can start from 200 to probably 400 a month. So another thing to think about, guys, if you come into Spain, you've got to look at all these other things, extras. The Condado de Murcia, up just up the road, is another golf resort. They pay a community charge. This won't be mentioned straight away. When you're looking at property, you probably see an apartment for, I don't know, 60,000. You think, wow, that's good. And then there'll be a community charge on top of that, which will be a monthly charge. I don't know what they are, so don't ask me, but there are extra charges. You've got to pay them monthly. So something else to remember about, guys, on your monthly costs. Now, we also pay a funeral fee. Because obviously here in Spain, you got to look after yourself, and here in Spain it has to be in English and in Spanish. I'm not going to tell you what company I'm with, but obviously you can never say you're never going to go back to the UK. And thankfully, this policy will cover you if we decided we had enough in Spain, we can go back to the UK and we'll be covered there. So we pay a funeral fee to pay for our expenses. Yeah, I think I've covered most of that, Hayley. All I would say, if you can survive in the UK on what you got, then you shouldn't have a problem surviving on here. I think people got to keep out their minds is Spain's not that cheap. You know, even though you can buy probably you can buy a villa for say even 30,000. That doesn't mean because there's not many places in the UK you get property like that. But that doesn't mean you'd be living here any cheaper, because you still got to pay your taxes. You still got to pay your health care. That all adds up. Not to put you off, but if you look around, yeah, there are places about where you can sort of live reasonably. And no doubt there are some people here that have only got a state pension and probably living okay. But don't forget, as far as I'm concerned, I've moved from a lifestyle. And I don't mind paying that little bit extra for making my life a little bit more comfortable. And I'm talking about heating, air conditioning, swimming pool, got a car to run, going out, eating. I couldn't have done all that back in the UK. Anyway, so Hayley, I've answered that one. I've hopefully I've got one more time, because just looking at time, because time goes so quick. Paul Harding, documents that you should receive when you purchase a property on Canvas sale. I have read various items that on some sectors you can't get all your certificates, and he's talking about habitation and completion certificate for the original build. Right, I can't say about these two certificates. The habitation certificate, if you bought a property and it's connected to the water and the electric, then that's your habitation certificate, because without that you're not allowed to be connected. Now what you will get, and what makes sure you, what you've got to make sure when you're buying a property, and you tell the estate agent, and he should tell you straight away, is got to have an escritura, because that's escritura is like your main deeds for the property. That's got everything on it. Now, I can't say about the habitation certificate and the completion certificate. Those two should have been in the escritura. If you ain't got that escritura, or he's saying that that he hasn't got it on him at the moment, I won't even touch the property. The agent will say, no, you're right, Paul. I'm answering it now, Paul. I'm answering it now. We've got a couple more minutes. So just make sure that if you're looking at a property, even just looking at a property, you should tell that estate agent, has it got all its licenses up to date, and has it got its habitation, its escritura? Because if it hasn't got its escritura, I wouldn't touch it. And if it hasn't got all its licenses up to date, now, here in Spain, anything you get done, you're supposed to have a license for. If you change a door, or if you change the sink, you're supposed to have a license for it, because everything here is written down in your escritura. And if there's something missed off that, and there's the lawyer that's going through everything for you will pinpick it, and if it hasn't got it on there, you can't complete. So you make sure that the estate agent knows his job. Yes, he's got an escritura. If all his licenses are up to date, you can virtually buy that property straight away. If he says to you, "Oh, I don't think he's got all his licenses up to date," well, then just hang back. Make sure that he's got all his licenses up to date, because that's one of the biggest falling points. Now, most of the people that I have met, usually what they tend to do before they put a property on the market, they get all their licenses up to date, so everything's ready. Because obviously they want to sell. So just make sure, guys, that they've got an escritura, and they all, which is the main deeds of the property, and all their licenses are up to date. And I mean up to date, because like I said, if he puts on a new handle, I mean that's what I've been told about this in the kitchen. If you change the doorknobs or something like that, or especially if you change the door panels on the, and they haven't put on the license thing. It don't cost a lot for these licenses, but if they're not up to date, that can be a bit of a stumbler when it's a completion of a sale. So yeah, the estate agent will know what you're on about when you say, "Oh, all the licenses up to date," and he's got his escritura. If he looks at you all puzzled, then there's another thing, I wouldn't buy it. Most of the estate agents that I know here are quite on the job on those sort of things. But just make sure, guys, when you're paying your money, because once you sort of say yes, you committed yourself, getting out of it's not like the UK. Once you commit and you put your deposit down, you're sort of in the process. You've agreed. It's as good as that here. So just be so careful when you're looking, and take your time. Take your time. So anyway, I think that's about it now. There's no point in me doing another one. Hopefully I've answered your question there, Paul. Michelle is the next question. I'll do that tomorrow because I've only got about a minute left. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, guys. This has been going all week. We're up until Sunday, and then from the following week, I'll go back to some certain top depends if I get through all my questions. I've got another page and a bit, so I've got a lot of questions to get through. Don't forget to check out my videos. I've got another good. I've got another Q&A video coming out on Thursday. Tomorrow I've got a video coming out on another golf resort that I went to. Check it out, because it all helps me. I've been a poor old pensioner, or semi-retired pensioner, I should say. But it's that time again, guys. I hope you enjoyed the Q&A. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Don't forget, you can watch it again if you want. Anyway, adios amigos. Catch you tomorrow, same time, with some more questions.